All right. Hello, this is Kim Adamski, HIV prevention specialist at the Hartford Gay and Lesbian Health Collective. Today I'm here with Adam Lang, and we're going to talk a little bit about bullying because it is Bullying Prevention Month in October. So just so you all know about the Health Collective, if you're not aware, we're located in the South End of Hartford, Connecticut. We do STD testing, dental, sexual health, and a variety of support groups and that sort of thing. If you have questions or want to schedule an appointment with us, our number is 860-278-4163. All right, Adam, can you tell me a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Adam Lang. I am trained as a school psychologist and policy analyst, and right now I'm working and living in New York, working with after-school programs. Before that, I was studying and working in Philadelphia as a school psychologist and doing policy work. And right now, in particular, the kinds of programs that I work with are like social emotional learning programs, STEM, and literacy.
Great, cool. So how did you become interested in what you're doing, education and school psychology?
Yeah, so I think it started because I really was interested in how schools can provide mental health care in a setting where kids have to be. So you're really meeting people where they're at and giving them free care. And then from there, I feel like the education part I got really interested in. Um, so just everything from, so using like a school psychologist's perspective on how to inform educational policy. So not necessarily just working with kids who have, like, let's say, like a learning disability or problems in like the school environment, like instead working using policy and mental health perspective in education to kind of inform how we go about doing education as a whole.
And do you think that like using school psychology and stuff in education policy, do you think that that's underutilized, or do you think they're doing better these days, or?
Um, that's a great question. I think it depends. I know it sometimes it does drive the policy and everything, but other times policies are driven by things that are just like completely uh, not based in like evidence or practice or anything at all.
Like
Uh,
politics?
yeah, it could also be that.
Yeah,
So it's like it's really hit or miss, I guess, in that regard.
right. Okay, so you told me that you have done some work with regards to LGBTQ kids and bullying. Can you tell me more about what you worked on?
Yeah, sure. So, as I'm sure, like a lot of educators who might be listening now, we tend to focus our interventions and services in like a three-tiered approach. So, like tier one being all students, tier two being a smaller group of students that's more targeted, and then tier one being individual students. And so, I've kind of worked in all of those tiers in schools that I've worked at in Connecticut, upstate New York, Philly, where for example, like tier three, I'd be working with kids one-on-one as the school psychologist, providing services that way. Uh, tier two, smaller groups, so doing anti-LGBTQ lesson or anti-LGBTQ bullying lessons in classrooms. Uh, so like, for example, if there was a classroom that was having a bullying problem, like GLSEN, for example, has great curricula that you can use, or doing like targeted social emotional learning. And then tier one would be like implementing whole school programs. So things like working on school climate or social emotional curricula for the whole school.
And so I've heard that Gen Z, the youths now, man, I'm old. I'm not even that old, I swear, is more accepting than previous generations. Is this something that you find is like actually true? And what do you see in schools as far as bullying goes?
Yeah, so I think it's yes that there is less bullying. So in order to form this opinion, I looked at the GLSEN school climate survey that they did in 2019. So they got like a full sample from schools around the country, and they noticed a downward trend in most bullying scenarios. But they also noted that like it's still pretty high. So while things are going down, things still aren't amazing for a lot of kids. And I also think, like, just by virtue of being kids, like they may not understand things. They may not have the language to put to things that they want to talk about or ask somebody about appropriately. And so, like, impulsivity and all of these things can go into hurting people's feelings, as well as like the culture at large, like giving homophobic, transphobic messages. And as much as as much as I'd like to sort of kind of, seal off hermetically like the school community so that none of like the outside bad forces kind of come through the walls, like the school is very much a part of the world. Like the kids bring it in with them and we bring it in with us. So
yeah. And at that age, I feel like they are more informed by like media and their peers than like what their parents teach them and stuff. Like you can only do so much. And I mean, probably you as a school psychologist can only do so much.
yeah, it's hard because school, I mean, kids spend a lot of time in school, but they spend even more time outside of it, whether it's like at night or summer vacation, winter vacation, anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that I mean is applicable to Gen Z, but also to millennials, is that the internet was part of our adolescence and continues to be, probably even more so. And I mean, we experienced a lot of bullying online. I specifically remember a platform called Formspring where people could anonymously ask questions of people, and usually it just turned into, why do you sleep with everyone? Why are you such a whore or whatever? So that goes poorly for people. Yeah, people still do it. So like, what are you seeing as far as online bullying goes? Is anonymous ask boxes still a thing?
Um, I don't think Formspring is, but I mean there is.
No, that's not cool.
But I mean Instagram and other platforms, they have the same sort of anonymous messaging that can kind of go on. Um, I think also there's like an interesting sort of like permutation where when I was growing up, I don't know, like for example, if I posted something on MySpace or Facebook or whatever, like it wouldn't be as easy to find by other people, whereas now everything is so indexed by Google and like things are so much more easily shared and amplified. And so that's something that's very new. I think also just kind of the platforms that kids use kind of change very quickly because they don't want to be whatever their parents are on. Which now I guess is Facebook and even Instagram. Now it's all about TikTok. And
oh, is Instagram for olds now?
I don't know. That's allegedly. But yeah, I think that it's also become very different in that it really seeps into the school walls. So like, yes, cyberbullying and bullying at school, they could kind of be two separate things when you didn't have your phone on you all the time. But I mean, now you do. Now it's two things at once. And so that's also something that's very new.
Yeah. Do kids have their phones on them at school now? Like, wasn't that kind of verboten, like in school?
It was, but now it's allowed everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
You can just have your
Well,
phone?
everywhere that I've been, yeah.
Huh. I mean, I guess they probably gave up, right?
There's only so much you could do.
Yeah, it's not like anybody was actually obeying and when we were in school. um, yeah, the internet. So I know you were saying that like there's certain things you can't say in school and kids are kind of getting to know that. Like, I mean, I imagine they're not still calling things gay or whatever, or the R word or whatever they're saying. But I mean, are LGBTQ kids still bullied in particular? You can still bully people, I imagine, for being gay or whatever without saying, I am bullying you because you're gay. So how are you experiencing that as an educator?
Yeah. So, I mean, sadly, the kids using gay as like a pejorative is still incredibly common. I think it was
Really?
like well over 90% of
That is
kids surveyed.
wild.
Yeah. Which
Huh.
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Things never change.
Well, hopefully they will.
Yeah. Yes. Well, hope that's why we have you.
And I think that there are some, I guess, as much as things do change, they do kind of stay the same in that regard. So like kids being bullied or threatened, particularly because of like their gender identity or their sexuality, definitely does still happen. And I think that there are some interesting changes in that in particular because kids, which is this is a good thing, kids are coming out younger and younger, and they have the support of like their parents and their communities, but also like educators in elementary school, for example, may not be attuned to like really look out for, I don't know,
Mm.
look out for anti-LGBT bullying. Like, you know, that may not cross your mind.
Because they
Um,
just take for granted, like me, that people aren't using gay anymore as pejorative.
yeah, and so like it's definitely something that people need to be more attuned to, I think, even with younger kids, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of making sure that they're I don't know, making sure that those saying that's okay or whatever doesn't become a habit by the time they're older.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hopefully we can get that out of them. So how does bullying affect LGBTQ kids in particular?
Yeah. So um, I think first, before I go into it, I want to talk about like I guess how many LGBT kids say that they're being bullied on the school climate survey, and then sort of go into
Mm-hmm.
exactly how it's affected them. So
Go for it.
these numbers were surprising for me. So 45% of all LGBTQ students experienced cyberbullying in the past year. Nearly all of them, so like over 95%, heard that's okay being used. Um, 70% experienced verbal harassment um, based on sexual orientation, about 60% on gender expression, and 54% based on gender. So like at least half for many of these things. And so bullying can lead to a whole host of negative outcomes for LGBTQ kids.
Yeah.
So LGBT kids are more likely to experiment with drugs or alcohol, and with each incident of harassment, the risk of self-harm goes up 2.5 times. Um, and so what I found from the school climate survey on GLSEN, so nearly a third of students have missed a day of school or more in the past month for due to feeling unsafe or uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Almost a fifth of students that are LGBTQ had to change schools uh, due to feeling unsafe or uncomfortable. Um, and they broke down the data by showing students who were bullied at higher levels or students who were bullied at lower levels. And students who were bullied at higher levels had lower GPAs, were less likely to want to pursue post-secondary education, they had lower self-esteem. And that's compared to LGBTQ students that were not bullied at higher levels or bullied at all. So it definitely has a very big effect. Oh, I think
I'm
you're on
going to
mute.
drop the link for the school climate survey in the chat for anyone who wants to check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go. And I'll put it in the uploaded video too. So if you're watching this after the fact, it is in the description. All right, back to you.
But yeah, I think that school climate survey is fantastic. Like I can't plug it enough. Not only do they give you sort of all the facts, they also give you what you can do
Mm-hmm.
in your school community, which is great.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So, I mean, the times I was bullied growing up, and I mean, I was a really weird kid. I'm not gonna lie. So I was bullied kind of often. I don't know if it was more than other kids or not because everybody had their own stuff. But I was always told to just ignore it. But that didn't really work very well for me most of the time. I mean, nor does that even really work as an adult. But so what's some advice that you could give someone experiencing bullying that's alternate to just ignoring it?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing that you can say to somebody who's being bullied, whether they're a kid, an adult, anybody, is not to suffer in silence. So I think shame is a very common thing among victims of bullying. And it just kind of leads them to not say anything at all. I think in particular, because it's sort of taken hold on social media as well, it's very much out of the eyes of administrators, adults, anybody. And so that makes it all the more important to kind of bring it to light. because it'll be less likely that somebody's going to get to see it. I think that that's the most important thing. I think that also oftentimes people will give the advice, oh, you should go back and you should fight them, or, oh, honestly, you laugh, but people do it a lot.
I mean, I
Or
get it. Sometimes I feel like I want to punch someone.
yeah, but ultimately that does end up sort of escalating things,
Yeah.
and it does not help. So I think that getting the assistance of somebody who knows how to help, who's trained how to help, and that you trust is the most important thing.
So when if a kid's like bullied online and they save the evidence and they bring it to the school administrators, what can the school do? Because it's not happening at school.
Mm-hmm. That's like a really difficult gray area in a lot of states. And I think in Connecticut, we're, I guess, lucky that we have anti-bullying statutes that include cyberbullying in there. So despite it not occurring on school grounds, schools are supposed to now have anti-bullying plans. They're supposed to be able to sort of make an administrative procedure around that. In other states, they're not necessarily allowed to. So other states have been sued on, I think, First Amendment grounds, saying that it is somehow protected free speech to harass your fellow students.
Okay, but kids don't even technically have full free speech in school, so
yeah,
comment.
I know but in Connecticut at least has some strong legislation around that. And in particular, they have anti-LGBT bullying legislation, which is nice.
All right.
Yeah.
So why do you think kids bully? Because I've always been told, they have low self-esteem, and that may be so, but I always felt like people who bullied me felt pretty good about themselves.
Yeah, I think that there are a few sort of things going on. So bullying is like, it's a very difficult thing. So like some kids, for example, will bully because they are being bullied, known as like bully victims, where it's kind of a two-way street there. Or they get bullying on the high end or from somebody with like more power than them, and then they take it out on somebody else. There's also kids who have mental health concerns. So those who may have really high levels of like impulsive behavior and they just can't, socialize in an appropriate way. They don't have the skills to, or it could be any number of things. There's also, I think we live in an environment where bullying is very much rewarded in terms of what we see, like from the White House to TV to everything. Bullying is seen as something that should be rewarded, which is very negative for school communities. I think also homophobia, transphobia messaging, just coming in through all of the media, all of those angles. I think it creates an environment really rife for bullying unless the school takes some really active steps to sort of make a positive climate.
Now, what are some steps that work better for preventing bullying for schools?
Yeah. Some steps, for example, might be implementing social emotional learning. So like there are some great curricula out there, like Second Step, people might have heard of, things that you work with kids to sort of teach them, I don't know, how to see how other people might feel based on how you act.
So empathy.
Yeah, I would say so.
Kids have empathy to some extent, though. But I even specifically remember not being able to empathize the way I can as an adult, as a kid, So, I think that's something that's really hard to instill in kids in the first place.
Yeah, it's a very important skill, and it helps not only socially, but even academically. Like it's been shown to be one of the few things that can consistently, help kids improve their academic performance too.
Wow.
Other things you can do, so school climate work is really great. So like pbis.org, for example, has some great school climate initiatives and surveys that you can give. There's a great one they use in the state of Georgia but it's free and available for everyone to use. It's made by somebody at UConn, uh, and and if you're an administrator, if you're a school psychologist, you can um, take climate measures of your school and then find like a really targeted way to kind of implement the changes that you want to see.
Oh, that's really
Yeah,
great.
so yeah, like using data to sort of inform your practice and make sure that you're uh, I don't know, you're keeping yourself accountable that way is
Mhm.
fantastic.
So what do you do when a kid comes to you as a school psychologist saying that they're being bullied?
Yeah. Um, so I think I should start by saying probably what I wouldn't do. So I know that a lot of people will want they'll say like, oh, okay, like I don't know, Johnny's bullying you, go get Johnny. We are gonna all sit down in a circle together and we're gonna talk this out. And like
It's uncomfortable.
that's very uncomfortable and that's not the immediate first step probably that you should be taking. I mean, every situation is different, but bullying in particular involves a power imbalance where you know, one person has more power and they are sort of like lashing out on somebody who does not. And so by sitting them together at a table and then having like an adult there, it just makes a pretty uncomfortable situation. So I think a good first step would be to talk to the student and sort of figure out if they're okay, get the details, figure out. So I think that the best way to go from there, you know, figuring all of that out is to sort of ask like what they would like to see. So
Mhm.
for example, maybe the student just wanted somebody to vent to, or maybe they wanted you to very specifically like let the principal know, or
Mhm.
um, any number of things. And like getting that sort of feedback is really important too.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think from there, it's kind of like a taking a step back and looking at the whole system of the school. And I mean, obviously still working with the student who is bullying and being bullied, but from there, taking a look back and being like, okay, what is going on in the school environment that's kind of letting this happen?
Mhm.
Is this something that's more common and I'm just not seeing it? Because bullying typically happens out of the eyes of adults or like out of sort of earshot and sight.
Right.
Uh, and uh, yeah, just sort of say taking that step back and being like, okay, we need to take stock of what's going on here and figuring out how we can make a better environment for kids.
Now, what if you're a parent? What do you recommend parents do for their kid being bullied?
Hmm. Yeah,
Probably not call the other kid's parent right away, right?
I I think that depends.
Yeah, I guess you're probably.
I think I don't know. Every situation, every community is very different, and I don't want to sort of prescribe one thing because I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe there is a situation where that would work really
I guess
well.
I'm just speaking for myself. I would have died.
Oh, me too. Oh, me too. Yeah, I would not have wanted that for myself. Um, I think that if your kid is being bullied, it's first of all important to know that it is the school's legal responsibility to provide your child with a safe and supportive environment and a free and appropriate public education. So that means if they're being bullied, they are not fulfilling their legal obligations. And if your child is being harassed based on their gender identity, um, that's federally illegal. So these are all like you as a parent have the power to really hold the school's feet to the fire. So like if somebody's not listening to you, if perhaps like an administrator is not listening to you, you can absolutely, you know, like take it up the chain. Like if you feel like your concerns aren't being met, because it truly is very much the school's responsibility to
Mhm.
take care of it.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I think that schools, I don't know, when I was in school at least, I didn't even know we had a school psychologist for probably much of my schooling, but they exist. And there is at least some of the week a school psychologist, counselor, or social worker in the school building. And they can definitely be great resources to reach out to too as a
Mhm.
parent.
Now, what if your kid is the bully? Because I mean, for being honest, probably most of us have bullied somebody at some point. So, like, it's common, obviously.
This one's harder. I feel like I get asked this much less. And I think that the most important concern that I would have would be checking on my child's mental health. So just seeing like, okay, what's going on that's, making them feel the need to bully, and how can I best support them moving forward? Whether that's like seeing a therapist, working with the school social worker, counselor, psychologist, and also checking to see, are they being bullied themselves? Like, is this a result of that? So like, the bully victim thing where sometimes those who bully are at the same time bully themselves. So yeah, there are a few concerns that I would want to check on first, definitely.
All right, so we're getting close to time. So first I want to see if anybody has any questions for Adam or for myself, but probably the bullying ones for Adam. And while I wait to see if we do have any questions, Adam does have a few resources that he sent me about like bullying resources for parents, educators, etc. And I will post those on the video when it's uploaded, and I'm also going to again drop it in the chat for anyone that wants to check it out here. So that's what Adam's got for us. A couple of these I knew about, and we do have we do have a GLAD group in Connecticut, and I think we also have PFLAG in Waterbury, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, thanks so much, Adam, for coming on live with us. It was really helpful. You have lots of helpful tips. And for all of you folks watching, just again, if you have any questions or comments or anything, you can ask us now. You can comment when the video is uploaded. You can also email me at kim@hglhc.org or call us at 860-278-4163. And is there any way to contact you, Adam, if there's any questions?
Yeah, you can reach out to my my Gmail, adam.richard.lang@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer anything.
At gmail.com. There you go. So okay, well, thanks so much again. This was nice. It was good to see you. Good to talk to you. So have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. You too. Yeah, it was great seeing you.
Bye.
Bye.